Recording. Welcome, everybody, to the February 21st Finance Committee meeting. Quick housekeeping items. If you have a cell phone, please make sure it is on vibrate or mute. Anyone that's going to make public comment, please approach the podium, press the button, and identify yourself for the record. And while I have and rather than waiting to do this at the end, folks, we have a pretty serious impending storm coming in. So I would just advise folks to keep on the lookout for any type of city announcements on the city social media page or radio to see what the status is going to be for tomorrow's public service committee meeting, as well as employees who might have the opportunity to be working from home tomorrow. Just to keep that out there.
Can we put Cook on the corner with a sandwich board?
Yeah, I think I think we should put Cook on the corner. But anyway, with that, I would ask the clerk to please read the first item on our agenda.
Number 7A, transfer of ownership of retail liquor license application filed with the city clerk's office for Wyoming Horse Racing LLC, doing business as Horse Palace, Lot 1, Block 1, Swan Ranch Rail Park, 16th filing, Cheyenne, Wyoming. License currently held by Poor Richards, doing business as Poor Richards.
Sir, I think you're here to make some comments on this item. First, we usually ask for a staff report. So I'll get to you in just 1 second. And I see Wendy from the clerk's office coming up to give us that staff report.
All right, I've never done this before. Mr. Chair, Wendy Kincaid, City Clerk's Office. The retail liquor license transfer of location and ownership application before you has been reviewed by applicable to city departments and the Wyoming Liquor Division. For a point of clarification, this particular retail license has been parked for the past 2 years and is not eligible to remain in a parked status. The license must either become operational or be transferred in ownership by March 31st, 2023. If not, the license will revert back to the city. Since the current license term expires March 31st, 2023, the license will go into effect April 1st, 2023 under the new applicant if it is approved.
Thanks, Wendy. Any questions for Wendy? Wendy?
Just quick.
You thought you had it. You
No
thought you could
questions.
escape.
You said no
Mr.
questions for
Roybal, Mr. Roybal ruined your plans. Go ahead,
Can
Mr.
you give me a
Roybal.
quick timeline on, so we approve it tonight. If we approve it today, goes back to council on Monday. And then if we approve it on council on Monday, then it's a done deal. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other?
Committee members, my name is Pete Lagori. I'm a partner with Wyoming Horse Racing. My colleague Steve Jimenez is Wyoming Horse Racing's general manager. And we're here before you today for a brief conversation about trying to advance the approval of the transfer of the liquor license from Poor Richards to Wyoming Horse Racing. We are planning on using this in a new project that we're actually building off of exit 4 on Route 25 heading north. My colleague attended the city council meeting last week and talked about the project. I'm happy to hit the highlights, but essentially we're building a first of its kind touristic OTB location. And it's really being designed to attract tourism dollars from out of state and predominantly Colorado based on where it's located. It is the first of its kind, so we're trying to make sure it's successful. The liquor license is needed as part of our amenities that we plan to have at the location. We are going to have OTB betting, historical horse racing machines, a food and beverage, a restaurant and a bar, and a small entertainment area. And obviously the liquor license would service all of that for us. So for us, getting a license is critical for the success of the facility. We're expecting roughly over $1 million in food and beverage sales the first year. We think we'll be able to attract midweek about 500 customers a day, and on weekends it could get as high as 1,000 customers. And again, the goal here is going to be advertising predominantly in Colorado to attract the customer to come up. The economic benefits I know Mr. Hughes talked about last week at the council meeting, but I'll just quickly touch on them. We're spending roughly about $25 million on the project. With that activity, we're going to create about 150 temporary construction jobs. And from that, that'll trigger in the economy an additional spending of about $7.5 million from those vendors, suppliers, and contractors. When we're done, we're going to be adding about 60 permanent positions at the facility. Those are full-time, with benefits positions. And in terms of the economic benefit to the city and the county and the state, roughly about $1 million a year each should directly transfer to the communities as a result of the taxation that's going to occur from the activity that happens in that complex. It's about 30,000 square feet. We've purchased 36-acre site, but we're using 12 acres for us. And we plan for a little bit of expansion if we're successful, which we think we will be, but we want to go a little bit smaller. And if we do well, we'll add on to that facility. The plan is really, I would call this phase one. Because we have the 36 acres, we're using about 12 of them. We really have room to do many, many other things. The goal here is to create a tourism destination, a campus, if you will, that has multiple types of businesses that are complementary to each other. And they're really designed to allow somebody to make the decision, hey, let's drive up to Cheyenne, spend the afternoon at our facility or our campus. Hey, we might be able to eat, have a nice meal, might be able to see a band, stay at a hotel if they wish. We're exploring a number of other businesses with that excess land. The goal for us is to not just stop with what we're doing, but continue to develop that area. So as I said, I think right now our goal is phase one. Let's get the touristic OTB opened. We've been in pretty detailed conversations with a number of hotel companies that you would recognize, Hilton, Hyatt, Wyndham, all the major brands, and a lot of them have expressed interest in potentially developing a hotel or hotels out at that site. So we're kind of excited, but I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Today, we're really talking about the liquor license. So I really wanted to make sure you understood how that fit into the bigger picture for us. It's really going to be used for the touristic OTB and really service that entity. And then using that as an anchor, the facility as an anchor, continue to develop the additional land.
Thank you, Mr. Liguori. Any questions for Mr. Liguori? And for my colleagues, the blueprint of the proposed project is on the back of page 4 in your packets. Mr. Liguori, I had a quick question for you. When would this project intend to break ground, assuming the liquor license is successfully transferred?
Sure. We've actually already started construction. We got the requisite permits and approvals from the city and actually broke ground. I think it was somewhere in August. And what's been happening is obviously the weather is playing a big part in this. So we tried to get as much as we could done before the ground froze, although they're still doing trenching. Right now, if you were to go and look at the site, we've been moving dirt. All the grading is done. All the preliminary trenches for all the utilities are in place. My understanding is in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be approaching the city for the utility connection and pay the connection fee to actually get utilities turned on at the site. We're 2 or 3 weeks away from ordering steel. That's when the magic happens because all the dirt, nobody really cares. All of a sudden you see a structure pop out of the ground. It starts to take shape and get exciting. So the lead time on the steel is one we're concerned about. So we wanted to get that ordered early. The goal for us is to push as hard as we can, subject to weather, and be open at the very end of this year. If weather doesn't cooperate, it may bleed over into 2024.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Mr. Chair.
Oh. Mr. Escabel, do you have a question for Mr. Legori?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, you might have other businesses coming in. So would they have to have their separate liquor license? I'm just curious that if in a rail park is this, would one liquor license be able to feed the other businesses, or do we need multiple liquor licenses?
Our understanding is the liquor license that we're requesting the transfer of would service our facility only. So if another, let's say a standalone restaurant were to come in, they would have to approach the city and figure out how best to service their activity through a separate license. And same thing with the hotel if they happen to have a small bar.
Yeah, my only follow-up would be in a comment that we're monitoring the entertainment liquor license is currently going through the legislature. So a business like this would probably qualify for that type of license, wouldn't it?
Perhaps I don't think anything's been finalized with the legislature as of yet, and I'm not sure how that would work.
Mr. Chairman,
Following the legislature as well. And we honestly didn't want to count on that happening, which is why we approached and made the tentative purchase of this standalone license, because we need to have a license for this project. So rather have it in hand than maybe it works in the legislature, maybe it didn't. So
Yes, sir. Certainly an exciting project, and
yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
We're really looking forward to seeing what other things we can bring into the area.
thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Hearing none. Any other public comment?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Mayor
Mayor,
Collins.
go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to let you know the bar and grill license has passed and been signed by the governor, so it is finished. And the license will not allow for gambling. So there's a carve out. It allows us to be able to determine what the local definition of entertainment is, but it does not include any adult activities or gambling. So unfortunately, the historic horse racing would not qualify under the new bar and grill entertainment license.
Thank you for that information, Mayor. Mr. Bloom, go ahead.
Chair, members of the committee, I'd just like to mention that there will be one more step that will be necessary for this. This applicant will have to amend their conditional use to allow for the bar and liquor sales on site. That is a relatively quick process. It would require consideration by the Board of Adjustment. The submittal deadline for that is March 8th. The next meeting would be April 20th. Through the previous processes for the conditional use approval, there have been no concerns with this use at that location, and we would not anticipate any concerns that would come from staff or from the Board of Adjustment with that consideration. This would be able to be completed prior to occupancy of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Any other public comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this transfer of ownership of retail liquor license, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 19, resolution reappropriating the fiscal year 2023 budget of the city of Cheyenne according to the provisions of Wyoming State Statutes 16-4-112 and 16-4-113.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee, Robin Lockman, City Treasurer. Before you is the fourth reappropriation of this fiscal year. If approved, this resolution will authorize a salary adjustment for all full-time, or for 40 full-time employees who have fallen below the minimum of their pay grade. Last fall, the city contracted with the Employers Council to conduct a compensation market analysis for all full-time, non-uniform employees. The city's compensation philosophy emphasizes that all employees will be paid no lower than the minimum and no higher than the maximum of their pay grade. The salary adjustment will be effective on the February 28th payroll next week. If approved, this resolution will cost the general fund for 5 months of the remaining fiscal year, $25,427, and all other funds, $9,523. And I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Stand by. Questions for Ms. Lockman? Thank you, Robin. Hearing none, is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 20, resolution authorizing submission of the AmeriCorps Foster Grandparent Program application to AmeriCorps on behalf of the governing body of the city of Cheyenne to submit continuation application for the next 3 years of funding for the Youth Alternatives Foster Grandparent Program necessary support items.
Staff report.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I am Allison Montgomery. I am the Youth Alternatives Foster Grandparent Director, Coordinator, actually. I am the one bringing forth this 3-year grant for your consideration. You currently have approved this grant. It ends June 30th of this year. And so this new grant will begin July 1st of 2023 and go through June 30th of 2026.
Thank you. Stand by for any questions. Questions from the committee? Ma'am, just a quick question. How many people is this program serving in Cheyenne and Laramie County currently?
We serve Laramie County, Platte County, and Goshen County, and we have 36 participants proposed in this grant.
Thank you. Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you. I'm just curious, can you, do the other counties also submit grant proposals, or do they participate in your funding?
They participate in our funding. So our grant writes for all 3 of those counties.
So is this grant just for Laramie County, or is it for all 3 counties?
It's for all 3 counties.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So I'm guessing that do the county commissioners in those communities then write letters of support for this grant, or how does that work?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that is not required as part of this grant. And so our recruitment from this grant just goes through Goshen and Platte County. And the dollars come through the federal government to you folks at the city. It's for us to provide this program in all 3 counties.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, through you.
Mr. Roybal?
On the foster grandparents program, do Platte and Goshen counties have a similar setup, or is it just everything runs out of your office?
Everything runs out of my office, but it runs very, very much the same way. Those grandparents actually come down to Cheyenne. We have a in-service meeting once a month. And so they come to Cheyenne for that training. They serve in the school districts, just like the grandparents do here in Laramie County.
And through your follow-up, how long has this program been in effect?
This program is over 40+ years old.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to adopt.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Go ahead, Dr. Aldridge.
I just wanted to say, Chairman White, through you, that the foster grandparents program, I had the opportunity to work with that when I taught out at Triumph, and we had multiple foster grandparents. And it's an amazing program that really helps a lot of our seniors who live on fixed incomes to be able to supplement their income and do it in a way that is amenable to their way of life. So thank you for the work that you do in our community.
Yes, agreed. If there are no other comments from the committee, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 25, resolution authorizing Paid Health LLC to provide advocacy and financial case management services for eligible specialty prescription drugs through alternative funding programs effective July 1st of 2023.
Staff report.
Julia Lebeck, Human Resources Office Manager. This program has been recommended through the Employee Benefits Committee and will help create a partnership with Novo Benefits and Paid Health in which they can work with city staff who have extremely high prescription costs. This will reduce the employee out-of-pocket costs for their prescription charges, as well as reduce the city's overall costs of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Group Healthcare Plan. Any questions?
Thanks, Julia. Stand by. Comments or questions from the committee for Ms. Lebeck? Dr. Aldridge?
Chairman White, through you. I was just curious, as I was reading through this, it talks about that the list of drugs are reevaluated quarterly and that it only applies to name brand drugs. If it goes to a generic, then the generic would be covered under their existing policy. I'm wondering if we might be able to obtain a list of their latest, or a copy of their latest quarterly list of their name brand medications that would be covered under this.
Okay, Chairman, through you.
Go
I
ahead.
believe Novo Benefits has that list of drugs, and we could absolutely provide that.
Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you. Other questions for Ms. Lebeck?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Escabel?
I wanted a little more feedback about the digital enrollment application and how that differs from other drugs that are currently offered under our program. What is the main difference in that application?
Chairman, through you, I'd like to invite Novo Benefits Representative Kelly Grady up to respond to that.
Welcome, Ms. Grady.
Good afternoon, Kelly Grady, insurance consultant with Nova Benefits, and on the phone is also Diana Madvig and Rob Henderson with Nova Benefits. Paid Health works at finding manufacturer copay assistance programs. There is an application process that would take place for those members who are on one of these specialty medications. The member would fill out an application, it goes to Paid Health, then Paid Health takes that application and finds those funds that are available.
Mr. Escabel?
Do we have a copy of that application in the packet anywhere?
No, there's not one in there. I can absolutely get you one though.
Just curious about the questions that are being asked in that application.
The application is income-based, so the program is income-based. So the application will ask for family structure and income.
Which we currently don't do now with other prescriptions through our healthcare benefits program.
That is correct. So right now, whatever's on the formularies, you're able to get that without any additional information. This is a manufacturer assistance program, which are needs-based, which would then require that application for needs-based.
I guess I'm having trouble trying to figure out how anyone that works for the city would be needs-based. It's taking household income into account, correct?
It does, correct. The income limit is quite high for these manufacturer coupon assistance. If the family, let's just say, makes something above that limit, then that drug would go back onto the health plan, and then the person would continue to get their medication just like they're doing today.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Aldridge, you had a question?
I just had a question, Chairman White. So I'm assuming it's not just income level, it's going to look at the number in their household and other factors. It's not just it's not straight income based. It takes into account other factors that would affect their disposable income.
You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none. Other questions from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That item moves forward with Mr. Escabel as a no. Next item, please.
Number 27C, grant award agreement between the city of Cheyenne and the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security for project scoping of the Cheyenne 18th Street Storm Sewer Interceptor Advanced Assistant Project, 2019 to 2022 optional 1% sales tax funding and U.S. Department of Homeland Security FEMA funding.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. Before you and for your consideration is a grant acceptance of an agreement of the 18th Street project for design and scoping. This has been awarded by the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, for the 2021 Hazard Mitigation Grants Program grant. And again, it's for scoping of the 18th Street Storm Sewer System, which basically means design. The federal grant amount is $270,000 with a $30,000 match by the city, and that would be through the 1% fifth penny for the 19 to 22. The period of this grant award is from August 5th, 2021 through August 31st, 2025. The main focus again for the project will be to look at the hydrology models, evaluation of that data, research, and the storm sewer design for the 18th Street piece. This is really the final step in the Capitol Basin to protect the community in downtown. So a very important project to me. Just to add to this is that I've now got this slated for our 2026 season, because ultimately what I would like to do is chase another grant through the BRIC or the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant to be able to pay for the construction of this as well. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Stand by. Questions from the committee for Mr. Cobb?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
We'll go with Mr. Roybal and then Dr. Aldrich.
When you say you want to chase this with the 2026, so we're awarded this grant doesn't go away. There's not an expiration date on it.
Through you, Chairman White, the grant does go away. It'll be only good through 2025. But again, this is just for the design portion. So we'll currently try to get that out as quickly as I can. And that period of the grant award for this one is August 5th, 21 through July 31st, 25. So we just have to have the design money expended by that end date.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman White, through you. As I was reading through this, Tom, I just noticed that on the very last page of this grant application, page 8 of 8, one of the groups you have listed is Community Action Laramie County, located at 17th and Capitol. They've moved to 1920 Evans about 2.5, actually probably 5 years ago now, but 2.5 years ago or so to 1920 Evans. So we may just want to delete that entity because they're no longer located at 17th and Capitol.
Chairman White, through you to Dr. Aldrich. Thank you. We'll get that taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Do I have any questions from the members of the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount of $270,000 in grant funds and $30,000 in a city match for a total of $300,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this grant award agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 27D, professional services agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Benchmark Engineers PC for the transfer station lift station upgrade or replacement project, solid waste fund.
Staff report. Could you press the button on that?
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm Adele Bartel, Public Works Staff Engineer. So the transfer station has been in need of evaluation and recommendation for its existing lift station, built in 1984. For $88,425, Benchmark Engineers will inspect the existing lift station, test it for capacity, and provide a recommendation and design for either the upgrade to the system or total replacement of the lift station. with the goal being to lower the average maintenance costs and maintain an efficient capacity. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Stand by. Any questions, Dr. Aldridge?
Thank you, Chairman White. I did have a constituent that sent an email to the council this week regarding the lift station that services Thomas Heights. And I did not, in reading through this, find where this lift station is located or what it services. Can you? Yeah. I know the transfer, but it's just this transfer station?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah.
I saw that, but I didn't know.
Any other questions from the committee for staff? Hearing none, are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $88,425.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this professional services agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item.
Number 27E, memorandum of understanding between the city of Cheyenne and Arts Cheyenne for cooperative interaction, art-based initiatives, and continued endorsement of Arts Cheyenne as the official local arts agency.
Staff report. That's okay.
Not on? Oh, thank you, Rob. All right. So, but we need an entity to manage that program. So this MOU between the city of Cheyenne and Arts Cheyenne manages the Art in Public Places program. And it has been in place in the past. Addendum A outlines exactly how much this would cost and exactly what Arts Cheyenne will do for the city of Cheyenne. And I see in the audience, Desiree Broth is here on behalf of Arts Cheyenne to speak to this program, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stand by. Ms. Broth? Been a
Desiree-
long time since I've seen you at one of these committee meetings.
No, I usually don't have to. Desiree Brothy, Art Cheyenne Operations and Public Art Coordinator, here to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roybal?
just one definition. It says art-based initiatives. What does
Yes,
that entail?
yes, let me get to that note. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm referring to the same thing you're looking at. So art-based initiatives is really going to refer to a wide variety of work that we entail. And if you, which page are you on specifically? Header, okay. Okay, perfect. So everything that was outlined in the budget item is probably going to be your most detailed way to look at that. So we have several initiatives happening currently. The first one is our Emerging Artist Initiative with the Cheyenne Creativity Center. We just opened that on February 3rd at 1620 Thomes Avenue. That particular funding item is to close that gap that we have. So we have received grant fundings, which will largely take care of all of our operations for that particular project. But the additional 5,000 would help close some funding that we don't have to seek additional grant funding for. Going through other art initiatives, the public art maintenance restricted for $10,000. That is in conjunction with the last drawdown that we had through the city of Cheyenne. And so that balance that we previously received on the first MOU is now at $2,688.47. So in order to continue work of maintenance, considering some of the repair to some of our giant boots, cleaning projects of 5 to 7 bronzes, things like that, that's about what that'll run for. Additionally, moving on, we have public art installation. One of the things that we have seen come our way, especially in recent years, is more and more funding requests for murals. And then we also have a kinetic art initiative that we launched last year. We do have a grant through the NEA to oversee that. And we are working on partnership with the county for Clear Creek Park for this year's installment of Kinetic Arts. So that's one of those initiatives. We have an asset inventory that was created out of our original MOU. That's a $600 annual fee to maintain that database. And what goes into that is just continuing to go around town, take photographs, mark out what items we have in our community, who's maintaining them, who's not maintaining them, and to manage that. And then continuing through just public art and public places management, as well as the remaining amounts. That reflects some operational support. So we have since bolstered our staffing. We have an executive director who is full-time. I am part-time, and then we have 2 interns who are supported through, Wyoming Workforce Services Development Training Fund. Hopefully that's enough of a rundown for you, but let me know if you have other questions. You're very welcome.
Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you. Desiree, I know that there's been concern raised by another council member regarding this art inventory that was evidently started prior to COVID, and then it was delayed because of COVID, I think. And then there was a attempt to use student volunteers, like from the Boys and Girls Club, to go and take pictures and to finish out that inventory. And I know we've added a lot of pieces of art since this was done. So how long do you anticipate it would take to finish that inventory and have it current and complete?
Less than a month at this point. Right now, we're really just waiting for the weather to be nice to us so we can go out and finish that. But everything's been entered. The only things that wouldn't have been probably would have been within the last 2 years. So we engaged with those students. It would have been 2018, 19, around that time, obviously just before COVID. So we did not engage with any students to take those photos or anything through COVID. We didn't want to impress that upon them.
Would this, sorry for the question, would this also include this public art maintenance? Would that include all of the new bronzes that we have installed downtown on 17th and on Cary and?
Correct. And we, Chairman, through you, we have conversations with Harvey happening for those. Since they are so new, likely they won't need maintenance for some time. However, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be placed on a maintenance schedule and that we shouldn't work in partnership with Harvey DeSelms to ensure that something happens.
Just a follow-up question. I don't know who would be appropriate to answer this, but in light of that, we've been without this MOU for, I'm guessing, two to 3 years. Do we know who's been maintaining or taking care of our public art, or what's been happening as they've been vandalized or damaged?
Mr. Chairman, through you, we take care as much as we can. We have a partnership with Mr. Sanchez here at the city. He helps notify us when anything is happening. We work with property owners. It's kind of a come as you may sort of thing. You know, we handle as much as we can. We're generally a volunteer board with limited staff. So, and we do, as it notes, have a service that we engage with out of Northern Colorado to help.
So as a follow-up, so I guess, Mr. Sanchez, if we had to provide this service as a city entity, is $50,000. Would that cover what you have your staff? I'm guessing it would fall under your staff would have to do, or we could always put it under Mr. Fountain, I guess, since he has a lot on his plate. No, I'm just kidding. But what would $50,000? I mean, what would your staff's investment, or what has their investment in their time been in the 3 years that we haven't had this MOU?
Mr. Chair, through you, Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. Our level of maintenance has basically been responsive to vandalism. The dollar amount that they have identified, I think that is an accurate number based on their conversations with other artists that tell them this is about what it would cost to maintain the pieces that the art that we currently have and having them on a rotation. And so I think the number that they've proposed is should be adequate. If there needs to be adjustments, I'm sure we'll come and visit with the governing body at that time. It does relieve our staff of trying to do maintenance of artwork that we really aren't subject matter experts in. So, and I would second your motion to put this under Director Fountain.
I just wanted to make sure that Chairman White, that we were not being redundant in this, in what we were trying to accomplish, and that it would take something off of our employees' to-do list if we were to enter into this MOU.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Yeah. I was going to say, I hope we can refrain for the rest of the meeting from just mentioning Mr. Fountain or adding to his duties. I'd hate to have him being lying on the floor as hard as a carp as we exit the meeting. So thanks, Ms. Broth. Any other so no questions for staff. Any public comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $50,000.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 27F Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Cheyenne and GOAT Systems LLC for clarification and assurances of city development and reimbursement processes.
Staff report.
And Chair, members of the committee, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director. This is a memorandum of understanding. I can't speak today. Regarding a data center campus development that's proposed south of the city or south side of the city, now in the city, as part of the High Plains Industrial Park. What the intent of the MOU is to ensure that we are spelling out our processes and what type of entitlements will be granted upon an upcoming site plan submittal and development of infrastructure related to this project. This project is fairly large and it's anticipated to take a time period. We're not exactly certain of the full time period, but with that project, there will be extensions of major utilities through the area. One of those is the construction of High Plains Road along the entire south side of the city limits area with connections that would connect with Terry Ranch Road. There are other platted rights of way adjacent to this development. On the north would be Wallach Road. On the east would be Division Avenue. And on the west would be Parsley Road. In addition to those roads being within this development area, there are numerous offsite improvements regarding water and sewer infrastructure that would also need to be constructed. This MOU basically is the first piece of this development, which would set the stage for a development agreement, which would detail how these would look, when these would be constructed, and what types of financial securities would be required as part of that. One thing that is a little bit unique with this MOU is we have a provision in here that allows this to be expanded and the latter development agreement to be expanded to contiguous properties in the event that the project manages to acquire one's next door. So in the event that happens, we have a process that is outlined in the MOU, which would allow for those lands to be added to this agreement, and we would then address any new infrastructure that might be related to that. Just to give you a little information on how we anticipate this to develop, we are anticipating a site plan to be provided to our department, which is an administrative site plan, is administrative review. That site plan should provide a fairly detailed overview of the first phases. And then that site plan is also anticipated to set the parameters for what the second phases would look like. Once that site plan is approved, and in the event that action is taken on that site plan within its approval period, which is within 2 years, then that would be grandfathered in. If another governing body came in the future and decided to adopt different standards like height, different standards like industrial design standards, they would be able to continue under their site plan. They're seeking that assurance. This is something that is common right now. If a development is approved and they initiate that development under their approved site plan, they can continue in accordance with that site plan because they've established a vested right and they can continue to develop in that fashion. So the MOU really is set to just memorialize the conversations we've had and our development processes. So this developer is understanding of what they can expect in the future in this community. I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Charles. Stand by. Mr. Roybal?
Mr. Chair, through you, with this MOU and the parameters you've set up, are you seeing that more and more in what we're doing with different developers, or is this inventing the wheel?
Chair, through you to Councilmember Roybal. This is a new one. This is inventing the wheel. This is not one that we have seen from other developers, and this is unique to this project. Chair, through you to Councilman Royball. I do not anticipate seeing very many of these agreements come through. We do work with a lot of different, or very many of these MOUs come through. We do work with a variety of different developers in the community and ones coming from the outside of the community. And they haven't really expressed much concern. This one, they're seeking some more assurances because it's a new entry into the market.
Comments or questions for Mr. Bloom? Any public comment? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this memorandum of understanding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 27G, professional services contract between the city of Cheyenne and Overstreet, Homer, and Cooker for legal services for the contractor licensing board.
Staff report.
Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney. What you have before you is a professional services contract between the city of Cheyenne and the law firm of Overstreet, Homer, and Cooker. We work with an attorney at that firm by the name of Jeffrey Bolt, and he staffs the contractor's licenses board meeting. We only call him when we need him. Last week, we needed him for about 5.5 hours. It was a fairly long meeting before the contractor's licensing board. So therefore, we pay him hourly. This contract is set up to do that for the contractor's licensing board. You'll notice the next contract on the agenda relates to his services before the Board of Adjustment. That one, we pay him a set amount per month because it's one meeting per month. So these contracts differ in that regard, but they're similar in every other regard. It just makes sense based on the way that we staff those two boards. And I'm available for questions.
Stand by, Stephanie. Mr. Roybal?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Stephanie, on both of them, they're $199,999.99. Do we ever exceed that?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Councilman Roybal, we do not. This is a relatively cheap contract. It never exceeds $199,999. I do believe that there was an amendment which excluded that language from the Board of Adjustment contract because it was never applicable. They're paid monthly. But with regard to the contractor's licensing board, with the exclusion of last week, which was a very long meeting for the contractor's licensing board, we're never even going to get close to that. I would also note that Mr. Bolt works at a very discounted rate, government rate for us, which is very gracious of that firm because it's tough to find attorneys. So, but never are we going to exceed that amount.
Mr. Chair, just one follow-up. So the $199,999.99, what do we get for the 99 cents?
It's worth it for that.
Okay. Just checking.
Dr. Aldridge?
Thank you, Chairman White. I was just curious, could you tell us what amount we paid to them for this particular board in the last fiscal year?
With regard to the contractor's licensing board, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I know that Mr. Fountain is here, and I'm not sure that he has those numbers either. My suspicion is they're limited and they're in his budget.
And my follow-up question would be, are the contractor's license fees set so that those fees help to cover this cost?
Mr. Chairman, through you, that might be a question for Mr. Fountain.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, yes, it does cover that, Dr. Aldridge.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've never had gone over and we've never not had enough to take care of it. And then those fees are obviously passed on within those collections in their licensing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fountain. Any other questions from the committee? Is there any public comment? Oh. No question? Okay. Any public comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $199,999.99.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this professional services contract, please signify by saying aye. As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item.
Number 27H, professional services contract between the city of Cheyenne and Overstreet, Homer and Coker for legal services for the Board of Adjustment.
Staff report.
Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne's city attorney. What you have before you is a professional services contract between Overstreet, Homer and Cooker with regard to professional services for the Board of Adjustment. This budget item is under the planning department. With regard to paragraph 3, the last sentence, which states all services shall be completed, that sentence should actually be deleted. I think there was an amendment probably stamped sometime around the 10th that I will provide for council, which simply deletes that 9. Apart from that, what you have before you is ready for approval, and I'm open for questions.
Questions from the committee for Ms. Boster, Dr. Aldrich?
Chairman White, to 3, I just want to make sure I understand correctly that number 3 now will end at all services shall be completed during this term. And with the sentence we eliminated was in no event shall the cumulative contract dollar amount exceed $199,999.99.
Chairman White, through you to Dr. Aldrich, you're correct. I was wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah, there, just for clarification, there's no deletion of that sentence in what we have in our packets. So
Correct. And I'm not sure why, but I will track that down because I have stamped, or at least I did in my mind, stamp an amended contract deleting that line.
great. Okay. Other comments or questions for Ms. Boster? Any comments from the public? Oh, wait,
Chair,
Mr. Bloom?
members of the committee, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director. I think the question might come, there is a flat rate for the Board of Adjustment for the attorney to attend, and our amount never would exceed $7,200 a year. And it is presently budgeted every year for that Board of Adjustment support.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Mr. Roybal?
I can wait till after the motion, but
Okay. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $7,200.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from,
7,200. It's in the contract. It says 7,200.
Okay, that was my question. Never mind.
okay, great. Any comments or questions from the committee? Okay. Hearing none, all those in, so should we do an amendment? Yeah.
Just remove it. 7,200's in here already.
Right.
Yeah. It's just that one sentence needs to be removed.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and approve it today, and then we'll give them time to work on that and make that correction. So is there any other comments from the committee on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the professional services contract, please signify by saying aye. As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. We'll look forward to that revision next week. Next item, please.
Number 27I, memorandum of understanding between the city of Cheyenne and Laramie County for EOD, SWAT, and CNU operations and extraterritorial law enforcement assistance and activities.
Staff report.
Members of the Finance Committee, Captain David James with Cheyenne Police Department. What you have before you is the MOU with the Sheriff's Department. We needed to make a new one since we have a new sheriff. So it's time to do a new one. This one will have a few changes from the last ones we've had before. Some big ones are they change on chapter 4, lines B or paragraph B. That paragraph you'll see where we talk about each party
will let the other party know when we handle incidences of, we use the words, high-risk critical incident, since that's the word we use in our policy, included but not limited to felony warrant service, active assailant, bomb threat, civil disturbances, et cetera. This is just so that we make sure we communicate with each other on a regular basis when we're working in the other jurisdiction.
Captain, what I've got is a memorandum of understanding between the city of Laramie, Wyoming and the city of Cheyenne,
too.
Wyoming.
This is the city of Laramie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this-
we had in our packets, I'm not sure who can provide some memorandum.
When he
No
said.
worries.
Yeah, Laramie's went through a while ago.
This one says as approved as to form only by Stephanie Foster on January 17th.
Let's just. Yeah, no worries. We'll get through it. Okay.
So number 4. Oh, there we go.
And that's right, I'm gonna just.
Stephanie, should we just do a short recess perhaps? Okay. We're going to recess this meeting for a period of 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
I know, I was just like, what?
Hey, Wendy?
Paragraph 4 doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Captain James.
We all had that same look on our face, but not the normal look. Just this one was, yeah.
Yeah. Like paragraph 4 and then
Doesn't say that.
the number 4.
Got the same date. 6:13 p.m., February 6th.
This is January 17th, 9:25 a.m.
I think this is the old one that
We did too.
That's what we.
That's Larry. You got the February 6th one.
Yeah. Yeah, this one. Oh, we're almost done. Down to the end. Try to look out, it's outside.
Till it's coming in.
Yeah, you can see it over coming over the mountains. Is it still supposed to be 2 or?
5 to 8.
I heard 5 to 8, so
We're not gonna have no storm.
you're gonna wish you were in Cabo by the end of this week, buddy.
It will be.
What it calls 5 to 8 with heavy high winds on
That's what I heard too, was up to 60-mile-an-hour winds.
really cool.
That would keep the county roads people busy, trying to keep those roads cleared. She's making copies.
Excuse me.
Just got the rest of the ice out of the neighborhood.
Got the what?
All the ice out of the neighborhood.
Our street's pretty well mounted too. I'm noticing a lot of asphalt has popped up though. It dropped something off at Goodwill before I came here and huge blocks of asphalt laying outside of their in their parking lot where that have popped out. Especially when it's cold.
I'm sure you all got emails from constituents, but well, maybe it's just.
Thank you.
They have to have 3 days of. Okay, so all ready?
Number 4. Paragraph 4.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. We'll call the Finance Committee back into session. Go ahead, Captain James.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. So actually, I'm going to take you to page 3. This is the biggest change in this from previous MOUs. Our previous MOUs, when we outlined what the extraterritorial jurisdiction for the police department was, there was a special map that had certain areas that the police department could go and enforce laws. And it went outside the city to, let's say, Archer. So if officers are taking a juvenile to Archer, or to our shooting range and a certain area outside of town, working with the new sheriff, we've cut that down to say the unincorporated areas of Laramie County. So this new agreement will allow officers to go interview witnesses, suspects, whatever, anywhere within the county, without worry of being outside of their jurisdictional boundaries. As well as those officers who live outside the city limits, who drive police cars. We allow them to go 10 miles from Pershing and Henderson is our take home car program. So if they drive to and from work and they see something, they can take action in a law enforcement capacity, as per this MOU. So it is just really clears things up. So countywide police officers will have jurisdiction. So which was super nice, made things really, really simple in working with the new sheriff. And then on the next page, page 4, this one, it lays out kind of the rules of that under paragraph B. Says in instances where either party's peace officers respond to or handles a high-risk critical incident, including but not limited to felony warrant service, active assailant, bomb threat, civil disturbance, etc., within the boundaries of the other party's jurisdiction, and defining those as outside the city limits of Cheyenne, but within the boundaries of Laramie County for the city, and within the city limits of Cheyenne for the county. The responding agency shall notify the agency of jurisdiction as soon as practicable. So this is so that big things don't happen and we don't let the other agency know, and we work together on those sort of things. So and that one, other than that, I believe it's mostly the same until you get to page 6. Under number 9C, this one we added in the same verbiage we added with the Laramie MOU as far as seeking reimbursement. So this will allow us to have the county help us with Frontier Days, and they can invoice us for their hours, or the county can ask us to help with something and then we can invoice them for our hours. So other than that, that should lay out this one pretty well.
Thanks, Captain James. That's very thorough. We appreciate it. Questions for Captain James, Dr. Aldrich?
Thank you, Chairman White. I just wanted to, I want to make sure I understand that on this 4B, my understanding is that this paragraph in itself would have resolved a lot of the issues that happened in Saddle Ridge on Halloween. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, through you, that's exactly what prompted this paragraph to be written.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Excuse me, other comments or questions for Captain James?
I was just kidding, Dr. Aldrich, the 9C is become known as the Aldrich Amendment from now on.
I think it's actually a good amendment. It does provide some good clarification. So we're happy to have that in there. Other comments or questions for Captain James? Hearing none. Comments from the public? Hearing none. Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 29D, consideration of bid number E-12-23 for lift-equipped transit vehicles for the City of Cheyenne Transit Division, transit program funding.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Renee Jording, Cheyenne Transit. This is for the replacement of paratransit vehicles that have exceeded their useful life. And we have accepted the lowest bidder, which is Davy Coach. And we are also in this contract asking for approval for pricing for all 3 years. So that's over the next 3 years, we can replace these vehicles as they become due for replacement. I'm available for any questions.
Stand by, Renee. Mr. Roybal, we'll go with you first, then Dr. Aldridge.
Okay, so Davy Coach, that's their specialty dealership that builds only those types of buses.
Correct.
And with the ones that we're done with, do we trade those in or do we auction those off or?
They go to the auction.
Okay, and then let's see. So Davy Coach, it's 1,282,000 and some change, and that's going to cover all 3 years.
Yes.
And that includes price hikes, all that stuff.
Yes.
And approximately how many buses does that get us?
10.
Yeah, okay.
Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you. I tried to ask Officer James this earlier and he did not know the answer. But I'm just curious as to whether these are gas, diesel, or clean energy.
They're gas.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments from the committee? Mr. Roybal.
One last question. Is this wrapped or do we have to pay extra for the wrap?
They'll be wrapped. That's included in the cost.
Okay.
Thank you, Renee. If there are no other questions for Renee, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount to Davy Coach, Sedalia, Colorado, in amount not to exceed $1,282,573.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Here, go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you for looking out for the long-term interest and negotiating a 3-year deal. Really appreciate the forward thinking.
Agreed. There are no other comments from the committee. All those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward.
Number 27E, consideration of bid number S-11-23 for an agreement between the City of Cheyenne and JTL Group Incorporated doing business as Knife River for the 2023 City Overlay Part Number 2 project, 2019 to 2022 optional 1% sales tax fund.
Before we get started on that, Jen, is that 27E or is that 29E? Okay, thank you. 29E, welcome, staff report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Doug Klein, City Construction Manager. For you today is a consideration of this bid for agreement between Knife River and the City of Cheyenne. This is for the City Overlay number 2, which is again a part of the city's payment management program. We received 3 bids for this project, and Knife River is the apparent low at $2,794,156.69. This project's been reviewed by staff, and it's our recommendation that we move forward with the contract process. I stand for questions.
Thanks, Doug. Stand by. Questions for Doug? Hearing none, do I have comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $2,794,156.69.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
What do we get for 69 cents?
As there are no other comments from the committee, all those in favor of this bid consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item, please.
Number 29F, consideration of bid number S-9-23 for an agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Welding and Machine Incorporated for the Sanitation Division Transfer Station Welding Repairs Project, solid waste.
Staff report.
Chairman, committee members, this is Craig Lavoy, Public Works. This bid is for
fixing the pits around that we dump into and some repairs to our scale as well as our railing by our 30-yard dumpsters. This is with welding a machine for $108,041.54, and it's paid for out of the solid waste funds, and I recommend approval.
Thanks, Craig. Stand by. Questions for Craig?
Craig, how old is the transfer station?
Through you, Chairman, the original transfer station was built in 1984, and the expansion was in 2019 was completed.
Okay, and we have never worked on on that driveway, have we?
Through you, Chairman, yes, we have worked on, are you talking the concrete driveway down into the pits?
Yes.
Yes, we have worked on those.
And then, okay. So we have been doing maintenance.
Through you, Chair, yes. Unfortunately, the nature of solid wastes can be quite corrosive to some of the material that we use. So
Other questions for Mr. Lavoy? Hearing none, comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $108,041.54.
Yeah. It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this big consideration, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. That item moves forward. Last item on our agenda, please.
Number 31A, donation agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Union Pacific Railroad Company to accept a donation of selected fleet railroad cars.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, members of the Finance Committee. Stephanie Boster, Cheyenne City Attorney. What you have before you is a donation agreement with UP Railroad related to 4 railroad cars, 2 of which are subject to a federal grant. The reason why this agreement is before you again is because UP has refused to sign the agreement that the City Council approved dated December 20th, 22. What we didn't know now that we know then is they don't negotiate their contracts. So what you have before you is a non-negotiated donation agreement with UP, and I'm open for questions.
Stand by, Stephanie. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them. Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you, I have a list. I know that surprises you. So I'm curious, 2B talks about the donor to prepare equipment for delivery. So the donor, I'm guessing the UP Railroad is going to prepare these, do the repair and maintenance so that they can be delivered, so that they actually will roll on the tracks, is my understanding. And if they decide that they don't want to pay that, then we would have the option to pay that, and they would negotiate that with us.
Mr. Cobb.
Sorry, I didn't have that on. The UP is going to prepare these to be track ready. They also had to get an FRA waiver in order to put these older cars on the track. That agreement is only good to the end of this month, just for this group's information. And so they're paying for that, if that clears it up.
So as a follow-up, I did notice that this agreement is only good through February 28th of 2023. I had another question about section 7. I believed that part of our conversation has been that part of the value of these was noting that the significance that Union Pacific plays in our community, and having those cars represent that activity in our community. But according to this, Union Pacific marks, logo, signage, or other markings identifying any units as owned by or related to the donor or any of its donor affiliates, that they would be able to basically say that we could not have any of their logos on these cars.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge, that is correct. This is UP's language.
So we could get all of these done and not be able to identify them as being by UP or any of their other affiliates, it says.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge, that's correct.
Okay, and then in section 8, it talks about use restriction. And I found this really interesting. That at the closing that we would take possession, but that they would be able to only upon their prior written approval, would we be able to allow any equipment to be operated or displayed by anyone out other than the city of Cheyenne or outside the city of Cheyenne?
Go ahead, Tom.
Chairman White, through you to Dr. Aldridge, I specifically the way it's written, it's a little awkward from the attorney language, but it basically is not restricting us to do anything. It says that they have the permission to say we cannot. I thought other than for display for within the city is the way that I read it. And so, I mean, Stephanie Boster may have a different opinion, but I don't think that's precluding us from doing anything. It's just saying we can't take it somewhere else or I mean, that's the way I read it. I mean, I know it's very specific about talking about use, but and Stephanie, you can clarify, but when my meeting with the attorneys, I didn't understand it that way, but I'm not an attorney, so I cannot speak for her.
And I'll follow up, Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldridge. I think it's poorly written language and staff has gone through it with Mayor Collins in detail. You can read it different ways. We have spoke with UP and they don't appear to resist the way that we intend to use these cars. But as an attorney, I think there's a risk here that they could push back and say, no, we're not going to allow you to use those cars in the way that you want it to. What was provided with the city council packet, though, is not really an exhibit. It's a document which kind of outlines the way that we propose to use it. UP has seen that document, and I don't think they're going to have any pushback, but that's not part of this contract.
And then my last question is, my understanding was we were down to 3 cars that we were going to be asking for, but on this exhibit A listed equipment, there are looks like probably close to the 12 to 15 that we originally talked about.
Mr. Cobb?
Chairman White, through you to Dr. Aldridge. So I can't speak for what was included in the packet, but Dr. Aldridge, I would like for this committee to see that I would propose that a motion be granted here for 2 things. One, to remove Exhibit A and substitute it with the one I'm about to hand you.
Oh, so this was part of this? I don't know. Okay. Oh, okay, great, thank you. That helps a lot.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you can. So Chairman White, through you, the 4 that are listed there are the ones that the short list that I should say, of 2 of which are from the EDA grant. And then the final 2 are the 2 additional that I'm asking for, which is SP 7077 and UP 906200, which are labeled as number 2 and number 3 on that particular exhibit. And then lastly, as part of this motion, I would say for you to remove Exhibit C from the packet. It doesn't pertain to this agreement. That particular piece was required by the EDA grant for us to put together some costs. So yes, that one to be removed, please.
Okay. Yes. So if I understand correctly, we're going to make 2 amendments. Okay, the first one is to remove the old Exhibit A, which is the one listing 15 cars, and substitute that with the new Exhibit A, which is a total of 4 cars.
Don't we have to have the motion first?
Yes, I'm just trying to keep it clear.
Sure, okay.
So with that, do I have a motion on the proposed substitute?
It's a main motion.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. We're gonna need public comment first. Sorry,
We are so confused.
I apologize. Stand by, Mr. Cobb. Is there any more questions or comments for Mr. Cobb or Ms. Boster? Okay,
Wait, Mr. Chair, I had one about the signage. So this agreement wouldn't include us from when we display the cars of having some type of exhibit in the form of either art or interpretive exhibit shows what the cars look like with the UP emblem on it. As long as it's not on the car, we can still have it in the exhibit.
So it says wood display.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Councilman Escobar, it's not really addressed in the contract, but just based on this contract language, I would recommend that we reach out to UP prior to making any kind of signage and get their approval. If we're going to do, say, a plaque or something explaining what the railroad car is.
Well, they're hard to get along with, aren't they? I don't know how I made it 44 years.
I don't either.
Obviously didn't have a tattoo on them.
Any other comments or questions for either Mr. Cobb or Ms. Bostra? We're going to move to public comment. Comments from the public. Welcome, Mr. Laybourne. Thank you for being patient as we move through the rest of the agenda.
Yes, and in this case, I'm not Mr. Laybourne, I'm Councilman Laybourne. And I'm not here as a member of the public, I'm a member of the council here to learn and understand about this transaction. And I believe I do understand a lot more thanks to the explanations that we've heard. We are definitely talking about 4 cars. And we are talking about their placement on 15th Street. I'm very curious about how that design of that is coming along so that we can be sure that these particular cars can be incorporated into the use that is conceived of in that planning document from Plan 1.
I think that's an excellent question, sir. And Mr. Cobb, would you be able to provide any updates on that? We've been told that you were going to reach out to Plan 1 for an updated plan some time ago. Were they ever able to get back with you regarding that?
Chairman White, through you to Councilman Laybourne and to the group. So the answer is I have reached out to them. We expected it to be received by February 15th. I've not received the updated yet. But to speak more pointedly to Councilman Laybourne's question, yes, the reason we've chosen the 4 cars is for linear placement along 15th Street so that all these vehicles could be used at this particular time on phase 1/1B, 1C. So all of them can be used. That was assured. They can fit linear along the corridor, and we are allowing for a pedestrian path, 2-way traffic, and no impact to the parking.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Thank you, Mr. Laybourne.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Laybourne. Is there any other comments from members of the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Escobar.
So I don't believe that the contract will restrict us from once we take ownership of the cars of how we're going to display them. I mean, we could even put them on the Reed Avenue corridor if we wanted to. But if you look back at when the Union Pacific donated the big boy locomotive and that we have in Holiday Park, the company logos are all over that. And I think going forward, at least at some point, that we could probably negotiate that, whether it's done through interpretation or art, as I said earlier, about how we will display them. I think that's still kind of a wide open discussion that we can have when the time comes.
Thank you. So yes, now we'll move forward with the proposed amendments. So the first amendment, as I stated before, would be to remove the Exhibit A with the 15 cars and substitute it with the new Exhibit A, which contains 4 cars.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend this to remove the initial Exhibit A we were given with the 15 cars and replace it with the new Exhibit A that has the 4 cars listed.
It's been moved and seconded on amendment 1. Is there comments from the public on amendment 1? Hearing none. Comments from the committee on amendment 1? Hearing none. All those in favor of the proposed amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, amendment 1 passes. So now we're on the main motion as amended. And we have a second amendment. And I would ask if there is a motion on amendment 2.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend this to remove the attached document. Exhibit C.
Exhibit
Sorry, I
C.
didn't say that. Exhibit C from this agreement.
It's been moved and seconded to remove exhibit C from the item. Is there any public comment on the amendment? This would be amendment 2. Hearing none. Are there any comments from the committee on amendment 2? Hearing none. All those in favor for amendment 2, which would remove exhibit C, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As no one's opposed, that amendment passes. So now we're back on the main motion with 2 amendments. All those in favor of the main motion as amended twice, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And the chair cannot vote unless there's a tie. So the main motion passes as amended. As there are no other items on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for everybody for your patience today.